Coming up on today's Locked On Senators. Well, last night was a prime example of why you never beat the traffic. Stay in your seat and you can watch historic comebacks like the Sens' 4-3 victory over the Calgary Flames, but no rest. Can they do it again tonight against the New York Islanders?
And Matt Søgaard was a big part of that win, Ross, but should he start in tonight's game? DJ Smith said it's an organizational decision.
What's our decision? We'll get into that and more. It's brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook. It's the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com/Locked On and get started today. This is the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I'm Jake Sanderson, and you're listening to Locked On Senators podcast.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Welcome inside episode 735 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. And there are two things that we know when you're traveling. There's a red eye, and then there's a red eye home from Las Vegas. Pilsy, how are you feeling this morning?
I am absolutely drained. I left it all in Vegas. You know, the empty the tank games, Ross? Well, the tank was empty. Got home at 5 a.m. tomorrow, but as our friend Mark Mathot learned, podcasting is not easy, but I'm here. I'm back. I may have Vegas brain, though, so if I forget things or if I'm talking crazy, that's why, but I'm stoked to be back, especially after a win like that, Ross.
Like when you said I got back at 5 a.m. tomorrow. I love it. That's awesome. We're off to a flying start. I love it. Hey, one way to fire...
Mentally, I'll be back 5 a.m. tomorrow. Physically, I am here, though.
No, but hey, nothing gets you fired up by catching up. I know you're in the air during the game, but did you have any idea when you landed? You told me you watched the first two periods that there was any chance of a comeback.
Oh, God, no. I thought this game was down the tube already. I mean, at the end of the second period, what were the shots? Like this, I think the Sens only had like 10 shots in two periods, but it was a good performance by Matt Søgaard as I went back and watched the condensed highlights because he had to be sharp, and he certainly was.
He certainly was. And we're going to get into that conversation because I think you and I are on different ends of that debate. First, I just want to let everyone know that we are boots on the ground in the nation's capital.
Yep.
I'm coming home. Yes, for a couple days. Cannot wait to be at the GLEBE Central Pub on Friday. And wouldn't it be nice if the Sens could come into that game winners of 6 of 7? They have that opportunity tonight, so stay tuned for the pre-game preview, game day preview at the end. I wasn't even in Vegas. I got no excuses, but we'll have that at the end of today's show. Pilsy, old takes exposed, though, on me. My goodness. My Twitter last night was tough. Very tough. But you know what? We live and die with this team, and I'm just going to spin zone it into saying, I just want what's best for them.
Exactly. That's what we all want, Ross. We just want what's best for the Ottawa Senators, and it would be great if they could do what's best for the fans tonight and get a win, because a game up against the New York Islanders is going to be crucial.
It will. How about this one, Pilsy? I sent this one with 5 minutes left in the third period.
For our listeners, this is Ross tweeting, never, all caps, being less confident in a group to come back from down 2 in the third period. And yeah, Sonk, that's an OT win. Timmy Stützle, 4-point night. How are you?
How do you like my follow-up?
I didn't like that. Come on. That's a ricochet shot at a guy that's not even there.
And how about Sens fan 0631 and I going back and forth? Say it again. Zero confidence. Say it again. Zero confidence. We did this.
Well awesome. Done, sir. Well done.
Sens community all time. So if you missed the postcast last night, I mean, you're talking about just a comeback for the ages. 2 goals in a span of 53 seconds in the final 2 minutes and 17 seconds of this game. First, it was Drake Batherson putting home a rebound on a shot where if I'm the Calgary Flames, I'm like, hey, Marky, why don't you just try to cover it when it hits you right in the chest area? Batherson, money right on the spot, and then the cat. The cat showing his elite shot that we've been waiting for. He puts that, I don't know how many guys, maybe 5% of NHLers are able to put that home in that situation, needing one with the goalie pulled. Elite pass, not only from Brandstrom going low to high, Tim Stützle working the point on this one, but Timmy just absolutely put it on a tee for Alex DeBrincat. Stützle then scores the overtime game winner on a great play by Alex DeBrincat. So the yin and yang, you help me out, I'll help you. And DeBrincat plays cat and mouse with the defender in the defensive zone, finds a little weave, hits Timmy with speed, makes no mistake, scores on Jacob Markstrom. Great Selly as well, kind of like a give it to me. The Brady, basically. He's turned the Frank the Tank. He's evolved it from this to, hey, let me hear it. So unreal game by Timmy. Not only did I think he was playing poorly, he said it afterwards. The puck was bouncing on me all night. You look at it, not only does he have 4 points, they're all primary points. The primary assists on 3 goals, and he's like, you know what? I'll just win it myself. That is what a superstar can do in turning the momentum and turning the outcome of any given game.
Yeah, and that's the kind of guy, like in overtime, I have so much confidence in this team because they have such dynamic players. Like you look at Tim Stützle, Alex DeBrincat, Claude Giroux, Brady Tkachuk, even Drake Batherson will throw in that mix. Like they're able to get it done. And I loved seeing DeBrincat score from the Rockstar Zone, Ross. Like Danny Heatley's looking at that and just smiling because that was one hell of a one-timer from a wild angle and it goes in. So those are the kind of goals we want to see Alex DeBrincat have the confidence to go for and have the ability to execute it. So that was great to see.
An amazing game, but one that they really did not deserve to win. Matt Søgaard is the A1 reason why they won this game. 34 saves for him. Brilliant in the first, second period, especially. And the Senators woke up in the third, finally. I mentioned on the postcast, Pilsy, the Sens had more shots in the third period, 12, than they did in the first and second combined, 11.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why when you asked me how I was feeling after I took off at the second period intermission, it was not great. So this is an epic comeback by the Sens and led by their top 6. We knew, Ross, they're going to have to outscore a lot of their problems. And sure, it's a 4-3 overtime win, so maybe that's not the best example, but they're able to come back with a high-octane offense. So that's the recipe for success for an Ottawa Senators team that's banged up like this.
And also a recipe to go into the second half of back-to-back, carrying that emotion that you finished the game, right? If they had been up 4-1 and they allow 2 goals, let's say even late, let's say they still get the win, it's a lot less than going into the next night. Like that flight must have been just a happy flight, right? Everybody's fired up. Everyone's stick taps. You know what? We got out of here with 2 points. Awesome. And now we got to do it again against a team that they're chasing right now, the New York Islanders. And we're going to get more in depth about it, but the Islanders have lost 2 games in a row, including to Montreal last time out. So this is a team that Ottawa has their hands full. They beat them a couple weeks ago. That was Varlamov. It looks like Ilya Sorokin, one of the best goalies in the National Hockey League, will start for the Long Islanders tonight. And I say that because it gets me to my locked on player later on. I'll leave that as a little tease. But DJ Smith left us with a tease this morning. He just spoke to the media before we started recording, and he said, we do not have a starting goalie named tonight. You'll find out. One thing we do know is Nick Holden is out with injury, and in comes Jacob Larson, who was recalled after the game. Initially, I thought it was for Travis Hamonic, who was stepped on by Milan Lucic. I'm not going tinfoil hat on this one. It was an accident. He was trying to get to the puck. No harm, no foul, but I was shocked there was no harm because that got Hamonic. Like that could have taken all 4 fingers off. Very lucky that there doesn't seem to be any major injury on that. But we'll all hit on that a little bit later. But the main topic coming up, Mando or Mads? Who are you starting in goal? The answer might not be as easy as you could think. That's all coming up. You are listening to Locked On Senators.
Ross, for an easy answer, though, I know which sportsbook I'm going to use when I'm betting on tonight's game. That is the FanDuel Sportsbook. It's the sponsor for today's episode. It is the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. They are partnered with the NFL, and they are the number 1 sportsbook in North America. I mean, if you were watching the Super Bowl, you were probably waiting to see how Gronk's kick did. It missed, but FanDuel decided, hey, we said you were going to get bets back if it goes in. It didn't go in. It missed, and they still gave you some free bets back. That's the FanDuel way. And if you're a new customer to FanDuel, that's even better. Maybe you didn't get your login in time for the Super Bowl, but if you get started today, you can get $150 in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. All you got to do is sign up at fanduel.com/lockedon. They got all your favorite bets, money line, point spread, player props, whatever you like. And you can get a bigger chance, Ross, at combining your bets for a bigger payout with the same game parlay. It's all on an app that's simple, safe, secure to use. I love their app, guys. Check it out. So don't miss out. Place your first $5 bet to get $150 in free bets, win or lose, at fanduel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Today's episode is also brought to you by the GLEBE Central Pub. You know we love our friends at the GLEBE Central Pub so much, they're like family. And on a holiday, where do you go? You go see family. I know it's Family Day weekend coming up, and we're going to be at the GLEBE Central Pub this Friday. We're getting there at 3 o'clock. Get there early and come have a few before the game, whether it's chocolate milk like my boy Kevin Jimena, or if you're going to pound a few Molsons like my boy at Lalim's Martian. There's no pressure to do anything, but we'd love to have you. We're going to do a live show at 4 o'clock. Bus leaves at 5. Note the start time. If you've seen that great poster that Doodling Daryl made us, we initially had the bus leaving at 5:45. We have to push that up because the Senators have announced that the Chris Neil jersey retirement ceremony is going to start at 6, and there ain't no chance that we're missing that. So be at the Glebe Central Pub early, come one, come all, and come on the shuttle with us to and from the Ottawa Senators game. $15. Are you kidding me? Go get your tickets. The link is in our bio right below, whether you're listening or watching, and come to the Glebe Central Pub this Friday, February 17th. You can find the Glebe Central Pub right in the heart of the Glebe, 779 Bank Street. Let them know that Locked On Senators sent you whenever you go. They've got great food, great drinks, amazing staff, and they've got a lot of theme nights, which I love. Like open mic night's always a favorite, trivia night. They got it. They're also the best bar in town to watch sports. Sens games always on TV at the Glebe Central Pub. Check them out today, 779 Bank Street, and we'll see you there on Friday. All right, Pillsy. Game day for the Ottawa Senators. We'll have a full game day preview coming up later, but to start it, the story of the day, the topic du jour is who the heck starts in goal for the Ottawa Senators. Now, Sportsnet was completely in one the entirety of last night's broadcast. They showed the two goalies saying that they have the least amount of experience of any two goalies in the league by about 100 games, but they decided to use a photo of Philip Gustafsson instead of Kevin Mandolese. Absolute disrespect. They called him an emergency backup in the first period.
That's so brutal. I mean, the least amount of experience should go to the graphic and producer of that squad. Like, come on, don't do my guy Mando like that.
That's tough. I mean, not only is he tall, dark, and handsome, but he also has one of the best setups in the NHL right now with those Bauer reactor throwback ones. Are you hoping that Mando gets his first NHL game tonight on the road in New York?
Well, Ross, unlike you, I want to support a friend of the show, Mando. I know every time this discussion has been brought up, you said they cannot start Mando. I don't want to see Mando live out his dream and start an NHL game. I don't know what he ever did to you, but me personally, I want to see Mando have success. I want to support someone that's been on the show, a great guest. We've had great interviews with him. So here's the thing. The Ottawa Senators are down to their third and fourth goalies, not emergency backup. Mando is not an emergency backup. But if you look at their schedule for February, Ross, after our night at the Glebe Central Pub and Chris Neil retirement game, it's all back-to-backs. You're looking at back-to-back 19th, 20th, back-to-back 24th, 25th, and then back-to-back 27th, 28th. So the last thing I want is to put a goalie who only has 3 NHL games to his name, who also has had injury problems this season. I'm talking about Matt Søgaard. I don't want to put him in a situation where he feels pressured and put into a spot where he's not ready for. And I don't think that's him for people that are like, oh, he needs to want to battle for the net, like we talked about with last year with Murray. Like, this guy doesn't want the net. He needs to force them to play him. I don't think it's fair to have that expectation for Mads Søgaard when this is a position he was not really thinking he was going to be in this season. He thought he was going to be the starter in Belleville, and now you obviously want opportunities to show yourself, but in back-to-back nights as goalie, especially someone that's not used to the NHL, and you're traveling on those nights, I just feel like you're putting in Mads Søgaard in a tough spot to succeed here. So for that reason, I want to see Kevin Mandolese start. I don't want to see injuries, and I don't want to see Mads Søgaard put in a tough spot.
I think those are all fair points, except what you started with. You know I love Mando. Don't do me dirty like that. Mando's my guy.
Fact or fiction, each time we've had this discussion, you've been on the side. Don't play Mando.
Well, maybe. I mean, the other one was Forsberg playing back-to-back. And this team, need points. And I'm not saying Mando can't do the job, but I don't know. I would almost prefer him to start Friday. I know that it's not a back-to-back, but they're playing Chicago. I just want to put him in a position to succeed. Whereas Mads, he just came off a win. I'm hoping that the adrenaline just stays high. He has to be feeling good. He's got the goggles right now, for crying out loud. This guy's got to be in a good spot. He played lights out. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Get Mads back in there. Let's go. He's 6'7", and not only that, and I know, like, big goalie, covers a lot of net. You're playing against a team that takes a lot of their shots from the outside, and sure, Bo Horvat might change that dynamic a little bit, but I think that it's not the toughest team. Like, it's not like you're playing a team that relies on run and gun, and they're going to have a bunch of odd man rushes. They're a very controlled, dump and chase, grind it down low type team. I don't think it's like the hardest working game for a goalie playing against the Islanders. And maybe that's me kind of discrediting the speed that they do have up front. And Horvat obviously adds a different element to that top line. Barzal on the wing, I'm interested to see that tonight. But 34 saves yesterday, and I think that I just roll with the winner. You win and you're in. Let's go with that is why I'm going with Mads Søgaard tonight. I think the confidence is rising in his game. He said yesterday after the game that he's done his preparation the exact same way for the last 6 years. And I mentioned that when I went to see them in Manitoba. This guy's on the bench like an hour and a half before the game, just visualizing everything. So I think he's locked in. I think he wants to play. And if he does, then put him in. Now, we went and we did some crack research on his stats in the second half of back-to-back games this season, and a couple of them, he didn't even start. So it's a little bit different. Praise Alfie, sent it at 11-11. Just notice that. But you're looking at a guy who, in 4 of the 5 starts, he's had an 8 or games, not starts. He's had an 885 save percentage or lower. The one goal against on 15 shots, they were already getting pumped in that game. The reason why he went in the first place, I don't know. I'm torn. Like, I could understand both, but as an organization, as DJ said, they have to make a decision. And I just go with the guy. If he's the goalie of your future, let's see him step up here and be given a bit of leash to go out there and, hey, you did a good job yesterday. Let's see you do it again tonight. I do want Mando to play. And frankly, Cam Talbot's not even back at practice. Mando will get his first NHL game. I'm confident in saying that. But for me, it's not tonight.
Yeah, and that's fair. And I mean, I'm surprised you haven't used this to your argument, Ross. But last time we had this debate, Forsberg played back-to-back games, and ho-hum had a shutout in the second game there. So that would have been definitely something to prop your argument up here. But the thing is, it's not that I'm not confident in Mads Søgaard, is I just don't want to pressure too much. That's a lot of pressure for a young goalie, especially in a game that the Ottawa Senators know what's going on. Everyone knows how big this game is. So it's a lot to put on the kid. And if he gets hurt, now we're looking at a duo of Mando and Antoine Bibeau. And there's multiple back-to-backs like I just mentioned. And Cam Talbot might not be back for, it's probably another 10 days, right? So I don't know. I just think all you have to do is not get a goalie injured in tonight's game. And I think that's pretty well setting yourself up for the next couple of games here. I know obviously you want the win and it's a big game, but if Søgaard goes down, then this team, like, it is just wild what this team will have to deal with. So that's my concern. Maybe I'm being too conservative on this, and that's fair, but that's just how I feel about it.
But a lot of what you just said would apply to Mando too. Like, that's a lot of pressure for Mando going into a visiting barn
Certainly it's a lot of pressure, but I mean, either way you slice it, these kids are being asked, a lot of them, in positions that they were not supposed to be in. I mean, this is the Ottawa Senators story with goalies. It's insane how they haven't been able to have like cut and dry, just basic. All right, your number one goal is going to be your number one. Number two is number two, and then same in Belleville. Like, they have not been able to have that consistency and stability in the crease, unfortunately, due to injuries.
Hey, if any Sportsnet producers are watching, that's Kevin Mandolese.
Yeah, geez. He looks good. He looks good.
Doesn't he look sharp, eh?
And Ross, look good, play good. That's the old saying.
I love that Mando and Søgaard, we know that they're like really like best friends, basically. I think they have each other's dogs on their helmet, don't they?
I think one has one dog, and we tried to convince. I think we tried to convince Mando to get Mad's dog, or something like that. But yes, yeah, they're definitely good buddies.
No, because Mando has a Great Dane.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah,
hilarious. But great to see. Like, I'm sure Mando was being a great supporter of Mads yesterday, and I'm sure it helped him out, being a guy that they can obviously bounce ideas off each other and all that. Just comfort, right?
How awesome would that be as a hashtag goalie friendly show? A goalie to goalie goggle handoff. And Mads is like, hey, Eric Branson, I know you scored 3 goals tonight, but I gotta keep it in the crease. This goes out to my guy, Kevin Mandolese.
Is that your lock of the night?
It's a tease to my locked on player.
All right, stay tuned for that. Hey, while we're talking goalies, and let us know in the comments, who should start, Kevin Mandolese or Mads Søgaard tonight? Because I see arguments for both sides, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that's why I'm leaning with Mads Søgaard in tonight's game. Hey, Craig Anderson just played his 701st game last night.
Sheesh.
I just want to give a shout out to him. He just passed Thomas Vokoun. He's 30th all time most starts by an NHL goalie. So stick taps to a hashtag sends abroad. We love Craig Anderson, always will, and great to see him still kicking around at 42, the oldest player in the National Hockey League right now. Buffalo lost last night, though. Not saying, just saying. They lost LA, so keep that in mind going forward, and just how big this game is coming up for the Ottawa Senators. Let's get into a full game day preview. We've got our locked on player, our lookout player, but first, Pilsy, we had, again, not to go back and continuously give myself a headache talking about the Sportsnet broadcast, Cassie Campbell talking like she's best friends with Alex DeBrincat, like she knows exactly what's on his mind, what he's thinking going forward. She's like, there's no way he's staying in Ottawa. I was like, come on. We're not having this discussion. Let the new owners come in. Let them figure out what they want to do. Is there signing bonus? Is there this, there that? But if you're watching on YouTube, tell me that's not a guy who's having fun playing hockey right now.
I said it before we recorded, Ross. I think Alex DeBrincat loves being here, and I think he fits in with this culture and this core so well. But as a guy who's about to go into a massive, massive contract negotiation, no matter what way you slice it, he's got a lot of tough decisions to make. But yeah, I will not be here for the Alex DeBrincat doesn't want to stay narrative. That is just absolute garbage.
No, I mean, who wouldn't want to play with a young Timmy superstar? 21 years old for Tim Stützle. He has 180 NHL games, and he has exactly 140 NHL points. And keep in mind, he played his first 56 games on a line with Derek Stepan and Evgeny Dadanov. And then last year, he played with Adam Gaudette for half the year.
Yeah, and Chris Tierney. Like, yeah.
Well, now he's got some proper line mates, and he's absolutely blossoming into the superstar that we all thought and knew that he could be. All right, he's back in action tonight, and oh yeah, he has 2 4-point games in his last 3. Is that good? Tim Stützle, you are him. You are a superstar. All right, game day preview coming up. You are listening to Locked On Senators.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Athletic Greens. And Ross, a way for me to try to get back healthy after a couple days in Vegas, the best way, the simplest way to do that is with 1 scoop of AG1 in my morning cup of water. And I love it because it tastes great and the health benefits are awesome. You get 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and more. It's going to help your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. that's what you want to hear from a health product, and it's lifestyle friendly too. So no matter if you're keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, it's all good for you. There's no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, and I still love the taste. So check it out, guys. I definitely recommend it, as I've been trying to keep this athletic green streak going. And right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop into your cup of water every day. A guy like me can do it, so you can do it too. To make it even easier, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase.
We're going to bring those to Cabo. We already have them in the bag.
Oh, I got those ready to go, Ross, because I want to keep my Athletic Greens streak going. And that's the best way to do it. All you got to do is go to athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance from Athletic Greens.
All right, it's game day. The Ottawa Senators are on Long Island. Celebrate Valentine's Day.
In Long Island or on Long Island?
On.
On Long Island. Okay.
You're on an island, right?
Yeah, I mean, they both work. It's just interesting to see how people slice that.
No, it has to be on. So, you are on an island, but in a town.
Yeah. Okay. So they're on Long Island, and they will be in UBS Arena.
People also ask on Google, is it live on Long Island or in Long Island? The answer is, you live on Long Island because there is no municipality known as Long Island. In other words, while there are plenty of government on Long Island, there is no Long Island government.
There we go. And hey, the Senators will be bringing some government, hopefully some government scoring to Long Island.
They're also going to have a homecoming. We've kind of touched on this a million times, but this is the first actual home game for Shane Pinto, right? His boys came to New Jersey. It's that tri-state area where you could even call Philly almost a home game. Like, they're all so close together. But even when they played the Islanders before, it was in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So now they're actually on Long Island. So Shane Pinto talking about how this is finally a real homecoming for him. It's a 7:30 start tonight, by the way, for the Ottawa Senators against the New York Islanders. And yes, music to my ears as well. It's a TSN 5 game, so stay tuned for that. We'll have the postcast for you after the game. Appreciate everyone who stayed up, by the way, for the late postcast. 350 views live at midnight Eastern, but I appreciate you for all being there. My locked on player, I just want to start with that, is Shane Pinto with the homecoming. I think, he scored a goal in New Jersey in front of his buddies. He had the double birds they were flipping off, the Devils fans. So, his boys are going to bring the energy to tonight's game. His dad, his whole family is going to be there. And I'm excited to see Shane Pinto. I think he's going to have a big night tonight. Drake got off the schneid with a goal last night as well. So maybe that line with Tyler Mott can get something going as well. Pilsy, why don't you run through the projected Sens lines for tonight's game up against the New York Islanders?
All right, on the top line, we got Brady Tkachuk with Tim Stützle and Matthew Joseph. Second line, Alex DeBrincat with Ridley Gregg and Claude Giroux. Third line, like Ross mentioned, is Mott, Pinto, and Batherson. The fourth line, Kelly with Brassard and Watson. And the decor is looking a little different tonight, Ross, as we've got Shabbat and Zaitsev, Brandstrom and Zub, and Larson gets into the mix here, and he'll be playing with Hamonic. And as we mentioned, we're still not sure who the starter is going to be, whether it's Søgaard or Mandolese. Ross, I anticipate we won't know the starter until warmups.
Yes, so stay tuned half an hour before the game right on Twitter at Sens Central, and we'll get you who starts in goal. It's game 53 for the Ottawa Senators. They have exactly 30 games remaining on their NHL schedule this season, and tonight, a big test against a team that's right in front of them in the standings. As it stands going into tonight's game, the New York Islanders have 60 points in 56 games. The Senators are 7 points back. Sounds like a lot, right? Well, they have 4 games in hand. So, not to get ahead of ourselves, but if they win this game, they still have 4 games in hand and are only 5 points back. Otherwise, 4 games in hand, but 7 points back. So this is the old proverbial 4-point game for the Ottawa Senators tonight. And I'm feeling cautiously optimistic based on how they ended last game, because I truly believe that momentum can carry from one game to a next. I think the first 10 minutes is going to be absolutely crucial for this team. You mentioned Jacob Larson. He's in for Nick Holden. The Sens injury list filling up, man. Norris, Sanderson, Holden, Forsberg, Talbot. Gambrell's the extra tonight as Derek Brassard plays against another former team. We should have a segment called Is Derek Brassard Playing Against a Former Team? The answer is usually yes. You know, he played for 8 teams since leaving Ottawa in 2018. Like, I didn't realize it was that many. That's a third of the league almost.
Yeah, it's crazy how much he's bounced around, but he always knew he was going to come back to Ottawa, and hopefully we can see him play in his 1,000th game in an Ottawa Senators jersey.
Well, we're likely going to see him play in his 995th game on Friday, because tonight is 994 for Derek Brassard. So we'll keep an eye on that. Certainly playing in a fourth line role right now. Played 7 minutes and 38 seconds last night against Calgary and was -1. But hey, still great to see guys hit milestones. And we also saw another milestone, Pilsy, with Tim Stützle scoring more goals now than he had all of last season. That overtime winner gives him a new career high with 23 goals, and he only has 30 games left to extend that even further. I gave my locked on player. It's Shane Pinto. Now, Shane Pinto, I think that it's fair to expect a little bit more than what we've seen. That defensive play stands out against the Edmonton Oilers, where he kind of let Ryan McLeod go to the net when Thomas Chabot was dealing so much. I know the instinct is, I got to help out my guy here with Chabot kind of having his hands full with McDavid, but that goal probably doesn't go in if Pinto has his guy. Pinto has an assist in each of his last 2 games, though, and I'm liking what I'm seeing defensively, and this is kind of the ice time I was expecting more and more for him. Like, since that Dash 5 game, let's set the tone there, that Seattle game, right? He's got 5 points in his last 13 games. Like, not great, but he's playing 15 minutes a night. I think that's such a good area for him to be in. But I think that he's going to get a little extra boost tonight. I'm watching that entire third line, but Pinto in particular is going to be a real key for me, because you look at who he's likely going to match up against. It's Jean-Gabriel Pageau, because the Islanders are deep at center, right? They've got Brock Nelson in the mix, and now you add Bo Horvat. So that's one of the strengths of the Islanders team, and I'm hoping, like we saw the other night against Edmonton, where it's like, damn, McDavid, Draisaitl, and Nugent-Hopkins, how are the Sens' young centermen going to match up against those guys? And with Edmonton, it's a bit different, though, Pills, because those centers, like Draisaitl and McDavid, play on every line. They're out every second shift, whereas the Islanders are a lot more rigid. They're one line after the next. So I'm really curious to see my key battle, not my key to game. I'll get to that, but a very important battle is going to be down the middle, face-off dot, and how they cover each other going into the D zone, because all 4 Islander centermen are all very defensively responsible.
Yep, that's a good point. And Ross, last time when Shane Pinto's buddies were in New Jersey, he scored 2 goals. So now he's going to have probably those same rowdy buddies and more friends and family. So keep an eye out for Shane Pinto, that's for sure. Now, my locked on player, I already teased it, Erik Brannstrom. I can't believe I missed the Erik Brannstrom goal. I can't believe I missed it. That was when I saw that he scored, I was like, oh man, here's where we're at. An Erik Brannstrom goal. What a game for the Ottawa Senators. But Ross, it hasn't just been that goal. He's got an assist last night as well. So look out. 2 points in 2 games for Erik Brannstrom. That's a big deal for the kid. But in all seriousness, Ross, what was kind of the narrative with Erik Brannstrom before? It was like, okay, DJ Smith doesn't like him enough to put him in spots to succeed. Everyone wants to see more from him. Chabot got injured at the end of the season, and then Erik Brannstrom got that time. He got that opportunity. Well, now Erik Brannstrom's not exactly chasing Thomas Chabot. He's kind of chasing Jake Sanderson. No Sanderson here. Erik Brannstrom in a contract year. You're going to have a small opportunity to take those second pair minutes. You got to make the most of it. And for now, it seems like he's doing just that. So last night he played up to 19 minutes, which is pretty high for Erik Brannstrom. He's not with his usual partner in Nick Holden on the third pair here. So I'm going to be locked on to Erik Brannstrom because he must have been disappointed with how contracts talks went in the summer. I mean, you really can't get much lower than what he got, and the Sens were not concerned at all. They had all the leverage in that contract negotiation. And sure, his fancy stats may look good, but as far as points go for a guy that's supposed to move pucks, he hasn't been able to rack the points up here. So he needs to use this opportunity to start getting some cookies here, so him and his agent have a little more leverage when it comes into this contract negotiation.
Yeah, because everyone who loves Brandstrom will just be like, hey, he's playing great. Like, if he was 6'3", it's all good. Who cares about the points? He's actually a solid defensive defender, and that's cool, but you make a great point. His agent is hoping that he gets some points that you can use. And, I mean, it already looks better, right? Because it looked so tough when it was like 35 games, no goals, 3 assists. You're like, now it's at least 6 points in 47, right?
And he got the monkey off his back. I think that's going to be a big confidence boost, finally getting that goal. Because, Ross, it's not for a lack of shots that Brandstrom hasn't been able to score. Like, he's basically, for a defenseman, he's got 46 shots in 47 games. So he's getting his shots out. And for a third pair defenseman, that's not too bad. So he needs to start finding ways to get that puck in the net.
It's easy to forget that he's only 23 years old, right? It feels like he's been around forever. In his career, he has 3 goals on 212 shots.
Yeah. Wild.
I mean, at some point, you just hope that like it regresses to the mean, because that's got to be one of the lowest shooting percentages in the NHL over that time period. But I like that as a locked-on player. Now let's turn our attention to the New York Islanders, a team that had so much promise when they made the initial move for Bo Horvat. He came in, he looked real good his first couple of games, especially. He was racking up points. Still is. I mean, he's got points in his last 3 games, and that 4-assist performance against Columbus. Oh, that was his last game with Vancouver, pardon me. In 4 games with the Islanders, he's got 3 goals, 4 points, and he's centering that top line alongside, drum roll please, Josh Bailey and Matthew Barzal. The Islanders then second line, it's Brock Nelson between Anders Lee and Kyle Palmieri. Then the third line is Jean-Gabriel Pageau beside Zach Parise and Simon Holmstrom. The fourth line, not your usual suspects. Both Casey Cizikas and Cal Clutterbuck are out with injury. So it's Ville Koivula between Matt Martin and Hudson Fasching. On defense, it's Adam Pelech with Ryan Pulock. It's Romanov with Scott Mayfield and Sebastian Aho with Noah Dobson. In goal, we are expecting it to be Ilya Sorokin as well. The Islanders are 4-4-2 in their last 10 games, 27-23-6 on the season. Bo Horvat leads the team in scoring with 58 points in 53 games. But you mentioned that he's actually one of the lowest scoring players on the New York Islanders, of course, only having the few games played. So the Islanders scoring leader for their team this year is Brock Nelson with 51 points in 56 games. They have 1 point per game player, and that's the guy they just acquired. This is a team that's defense first all the time. Some would call them boring. I watched too much Guy Boucher hockey and enjoyed it at times to be able to say that. But certainly they're not a team that's going to try to outpace you up and down the ice.
No, that's not their game, and they've got a lot of veteran guys on this squad, and adding Bo Horvat was crucial for them, but they still have a very similar game plan here. So it's going to be interesting to see how this team lines up against the Ottawa Senators team that is not their game plan to play like structured defensive hockey. They're relying on that top 6 to blow the doors off teams.
Who is your lookout player for the Islanders?
My lookout player is going to be Ilya Sorokin, Ross. I mean, we talked about it. This guy is in the Vezina conversation for sure. He's been a big reason. He's really propped up this roster that had a hard time scoring before Bo Horvat got here. But it's interesting, Ross, because he hasn't exactly been dominant lately. I'm looking at his last 5 games, especially if there's hot and cold for him here in this sample size. So his last game, he allows 6 goals on the Vancouver Canucks. Bo Horvat probably wasn't too stoked about that as they blew a third period lead. But then his games up against Seattle and Detroit, back-to-back shutouts there. So that's where you see him at his best. But then against Toronto and Carolina, 5 goals and then 4 goals, both of those losses. So it's been an up and down stretch here for Ilya Sorokin. It's going to be very interesting to see whether we get the shutout caliber Sorokin or the one that's letting 4, 5, 6 goals in here.
Have you in front of you how many games played Sorokin has in his career?
114.
He has 15 shutouts.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
He has the 4th most shutouts in Islanders history. And that's a team with a long history and with great goalies. And Ilya Sorokin has played 114 games, and he's 4th on their all-time list.
Yep, that's the thing. Like, this guy can shut the door, but he's also human. Like, if the Islanders aren't able to give him some scoring, he can't do it all.
He's the Jake DeGrom baseball reference for the MLB, and they play in the same kind of area. They're the second fiddle
Even the
team.
same colors.
Yeah, the second fiddle team in New York City, right? The Rangers are the Yankees. The
Islanders aren't going to love hearing that.
Well, I mean, they're the Mets of the NHL, really. I mean, they have championships. The Mets have a championship? Doesn't matter. Locked On Mets will have you covered on that.
Yeah.
But he is the Jake DeGrom in the sense that Jake DeGrom over the last number of years has been one of the best pitchers in baseball, but he doesn't get any run support, and he ends up losing a bunch of games. Whereas Sorokin, like, I bet you, I have a feel, I wouldn't be surprised if he lost a game that he got a shutout in. Like, that's you look at how many goal support he's getting. It's kind of like unfair almost. But there's also times he's either letting in 0 or 5. It seems like there's no in between. He's how many times has he let in 2 goals this year? So, not many. He's let in 2 goals a total of 7 times in 40 games this year. And I feel like that's where most goalies like averages is like 2 or 3 goals a game. He's either going to play out of his mind, and he's a smaller goalie, which is super interesting. Whereas usually you see all these guys, I mean, he's listed as 6'3", but he doesn't play big. Maybe that's what it is. It's just on the ice. He's got this super low stance, and he's so explosive out of it. I got to see him live last season in Winnipeg. It was the last time I ever got to see Chara play live, so that was kind of a cool moment. Still weird that he went back to the Islanders. Different story, different day. But the Islanders scored early, and I was like, okay, it's over. And sure enough, they won 2-1 was the final score, and Sorokin was brilliant. So it sucks that we got to see him. Obviously, when Ottawa beat the Islanders in Ottawa earlier this season, it was Semyon Varlamov in net, not Ilya Sorokin. But hey, we'll see. They got to get lots of shots, try to go high on this kid because, like I said, he plays very low to the net, and his footwork is as good as any goalie in the National Hockey League. So great lookout player. I'm not going to go with the easy one. I just rattled off Bo Horvat's stats, and we've seen Bo Horvat this year. I am actually curious, how has Bo Horvat done against the Ottawa Senators? Because he played with Vancouver in Ottawa earlier this year in front of Ryan Reynolds, and they beat the wheels off Ottawa. Yeah, he had 2 goals in that game in Ottawa earlier on this season. So, of course, we'll be watching to see how Bo Horvat does. But where I'm really intrigued is Matthew Barzal and how this fixes him in the sense of he's never been a good face-off player, and now he doesn't have to be. And since the arrival, right, he had a goal and 2 assists against Vancouver, thanks to Bo Horvat a little bit on there. So he's only taken 1 face-off in the last 4 games since Bo Horvat got to town. Wow. He's in the Tim Stützle camp, but even less so. They're just keeping him on wing, which is interesting because you think a player like that, the shiftiness. I mean, Timmy at times was compared to Barzal in his draft year with the shiftiness, the skating, the edge work, all that. I think Timmy obviously higher ceiling, but Barzal is such a shifty player that you would feel would work best in the middle of the ice. But I'm curious to see how it's going to translate in a long-term role as a winger. And I think it could be good for him, but I'll be interested to see how it comes out. So I'll be keeping my eye on Matthew Barzal, who had just ended a point streak against Montreal. He was previously on a 4-game heater where he had 6 points in those 4 games. So very intrigued to see Matthew Barzal, who had a zeros stat line against Ottawa. No shots, no hits, no points. Absolutely nothing in 21 minutes of ice time.
That's impressive, honestly. Like, what are you doing out there?
What are you doing? A public skate.
Yeah, no kidding. Jeez.
Key to victory tonight, Pills.
My key to victory, you kind of mentioned it. Like you mentioned, okay, the game you're at, the Islanders scored a goal. They're going to park the bus. They're going to get the win. That hasn't worked out recently, Ross, as they lost. They blew a 3rd period lead to the Vancouver Canucks, a team that is spiraling out of control and selling off guys faster than they can handle. And then they blew another game that they were leading to the Montreal Canadiens. So this is a team that, sure, they thought, okay, we're going to bring Horvat in here. He's having a career year scoring goals. We're not going to have to worry about that. We're going to get the lead. Not only is Sorokin going to shut it down, and we've got our Pelech-Pulock pair to shut things down, but we're going to have Horvat to score here. It's not going to be an issue. Well, it has been an issue the last 2 games. So my key to victory, and works perfectly, Ross, the Ottawa Senators were just able to erase a 2-goal deficit and come back for the win. So my key to victory here is, if you're down in the third, you're not down and out. This team can come back. The Islanders have been known to blow leads here. So key to victory is keep the pedal to the metal, especially in the third period.
And hey, 3 days off, 2 full days off after this one before Friday's game. Boots on the ground with us, Glebe Central Pub. And the Senators, when trailing after 2 periods, are 1-0-0 in their last 1 game. So how's that?
Love it.
2-19-2 on the season in those situations. But hey, doesn't matter. Tonight's a new game against the Islanders. My key to victory is use special teams to your advantage. I'm between that, which they need to, because they certainly have the advantage there. The Islanders power play, sure, you can say it's different now that Bo Horvat's in the mix, but as a team itself, this is not a team that can convert a whole lot with the man advantage. They're 27th in the National Hockey League in power play percentage, behind the Chicago Blackhawks. That tells you where they are in the standings for that. But they also know how to shut it down. So try to score early, especially, would be great on the power play. The Islanders do have the 5th best penalty kill in the National Hockey League. But I'm hoping that Ottawa's power play can come through. The Sens' 3rd-ranked power play in the whole league, just behind Edmonton and Tampa Bay. You think they've got some shooters on them? Ottawa ahead of Toronto, by the way, by 1 spot on that list. So I'm expecting an exciting game with the Senators having some momentum, carry it in, push the pace, try to do it early, and please, whether it's Mando or Søgaard in net, please protect the goalie. Keep the shots from the outside. Don't turn this into a track race. I don't think the Islanders want it either, but make sure that the goalies have as easy a night as they possibly can. Sens hold them to under 25 shots. I'm confident it's a win. Anything else, I think it's just a toss-up for tonight.
And Ross, not only protect them in the sense, like, make sure there's no rebounds or let them see shots, but physically protect them. Like, this is an Islanders team with a lot of power forwards. You look at guys like Anders Lee, Brock Nelson, that like to play up in the slot, and they like to get real close to the goalie to try to get rebounds, tips, deflections. So don't have those guys crash in the crease. Don't have them getting Søgaard or Mando, whoever it is, out of their comfort zone. Allow them to have space and allow them to do their work. And that's key for me.
I love it. We're going to see a great game tonight. I'm willing it into existence because, like we said, Friday, boots on the ground, Glebe Central Pub, shuttle to the game, shuttle back. We're in 321. We're going to have an absolute blast at the game. But the vibes will be so good. Søgaard, they'll be so good if the Sens can win tonight. Right now, the Sens have 5 wins in their last 6 games. Can they make it 6 and 7? We'll find out tonight at 7:30. Stay tuned after the game for the postcast. It might be a bit later. We're going to be, we'll head over to Twitter at Sens Central. We'll let you know as soon as we realize what we can do. If you're with your loved ones tonight, I know it's Valentine's Day. The postcast is always available for you on replay on YouTube, wherever you download your podcast. And if you just need a quick hitter in the morning, right before you go to work, whatever it is, the Sens Central Standout segment of the postcast is posted on YouTube as its own standalone video, never more than like 12 minutes. So a nice quick hitter for you. But if you want, join us in the postcast. The vibes are absolutely elite, and we can't wait to see you there tonight after the Senators take on the Islanders in New York, on Long Island, at 7:30 tonight. Pillsy, any final thoughts?
Final thoughts for me is it's good to be back. I had a nice little break, but Sens hockey is back. It's back-to-back games here. This is a huge game. If you have even a shred of belief left in your Sens, in your elite Sens brain, then you know that this one is a big one, and it's got to happen in regulation, Ross. It's got to happen in regulation. So go Sens, go.
All right, for Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. You can catch up on any Locked On Senators like Mark thought yesterday, and tomorrow, a Sens Central citizen. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast. Your team every day.